Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our latest webinar from SunBiz Weekly. And as you know, if you were on last week or 2 weeks ago, no, 2 weeks ago, this is a continuation of the discussion about interviewing. And so I'm glad to have you all here. We're waiting for the attendees to show up, and they are coming in. So that's good. I don't know what this is. Get rid of that. Okay. And you should be able to see my screen. Okay. And we're just about ready here as we're watching the people come in. Want to welcome people back from all over the country. And also, what I was fascinated by is last time we had someone from India. We had people from Romania, from Argentina, Canada, I think 8 or 9 different countries, so that's kind of cool. If I could say hello, how are you in all those languages, I would do so, but all I can do is speak a little bit of English. Anyway, if we're going to get going here, and me is to say who me is. I am John Farr, and I'm your host, and I'm president of the Power Group companies, the Farr Factor Vault, the Farr Factor Classroom, SunBiz Weekly, which I am the publisher, although I don't do all that much for them except the webinars. The people that I work with there are the real heroes. They're the ones that get everything done. So SunBiz Weekly, I want to tell you, we have passed up, I think it's 12,000 unique viewers. So we're very happy in our first year. We couldn't be happier with the kind of results that we're having. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about last time, because one of the things I had mentioned is, and asked the question, are bad hiring practices expensive? And of course the response is, you bet they're very bad and they're very expensive. We have seen chains in the last 90 days where the cost of hiring the incorrect people, the cost went well over $200,000 for a year. And that's a lot of money. You've got to do a lot of TANs. So I think, again, my message to the managers that are on this call is that you have a huge responsibility on your shoulders. You may not be buying the equipment, which is very expensive, but you're buying something just about as expensive as equipment. And if you hire the wrong employees, and again, I showed this example last time, and it's a very simple, like a one salon example. You don't have to have a big chain for it to cost a lot of money if you're hiring the wrong ones, because what this is showing is just the wasted payroll that you're spending for people that are not good employees, but also there's a huge amount of loss from what could be made in terms of selling dollars, because typically these people that are weak are not only costing you payroll, but they're costing you also a lot in selling dollars. So conclusion. Managers control a huge amount of company expense, and I would say to owners that we want to get managers trained more and more, because what we really want is we want them to be more responsible for that expense of who they hire. And it makes sense to me, because if you don't watch that, it's like taking that money and going right down the drain. There goes some Franklins there. And it's something that I'm particularly impassioned about, because I see the salons that do very well have done very well because of having the right employees. But let's talk a little bit more about hiring the wrong employees. And if I can get this, there we go. Hiring the wrong employees is the greatest expense your salon can encounter. And just as another thought about it, your cost of managing weak performers or workers with bad or non-caring attitudes, resulting in poor work attitudes of dirty beds. I've gone through on salon tours, and here was a bed that was sitting there that apparently somebody forgot or didn't care about, and there's nothing more unappetizing to a tanner to walk into a room that hasn't been cleaned. Yucca, icky, ew. Or called off shifts. That's a real problem. Staff dysfunction because they're not getting along. Low selling and customer service issues. It's all there. The last 10 consulting clients that we've had prior year losses due to 1 or 2 major problems. Let me repeat that. The last 10 consulting clients had prior year losses due to one or two major problems. Number one, weak strategies relating to EFT, such as pricing, sales rewards, pricing and service simplicity for consumers. One client had 137 different pricing options on the board where they were trying to sell EFTs. It was crazy, but fortunately, this gentleman's a smart man, and we've got it down to where I think it's 30-some options, 35 maybe. Or it's low-impact marketing on EFTs, and several other issues such as non-committed staff sales resulting in 25 to 50% below industry averages. And I see this, guys, all the time. I know what the industry averages are for in terms of EFT selling or closing rate, and also for lotion. And I know what it is for peak season. I know what it is for non-peak season. And I see this, and I see that these non-committed sales staffs, they're coming in 25 to 50% below industry averages, and that's just absolute money, as we said earlier, right down the drain there. And, of course, the biggest problem is not the loss of lotion sales as much as it is the loss of EFT sales. And the majority of these underperforming sales workers were hired in, and I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, I do this is what I do every day, sometimes Saturdays, hired in at a range of a minimum wage of up to only 75 cents above minimum wage. So, and it always kind of gets me crazy. I know I get on my soapbox talking about this, but why do some salon owners believe they can get great quality at or slightly above minimum wage? And what does this have to do with interviewing? Well, I'm going to show you in a minute. You've got to go in with your package of what you're offering on minimum wage, and you have to go in with your package that is not minimum wage. You've got to go in with a package of reasons why a good candidate would want to work for you. And I'm going to show you a resume today of a very good candidate. We're going to go through that so you can see how I evaluate, and maybe that'll help you when you're evaluating applications. Because as you know, last webinar, we showed you the application of a poor candidate, at least a poor resume on her part. So anyway, cost of managing, so again, why do some salon owners believe they can get great quality at slightly above minimum wages? All right, so here's the thing that bugs me. We go out and we buy excellent tanning equipment, and right now, you're not paying the big bucks that you would have been paying, say, 6-7 years ago, because there's a lot of recently used equipment on eBay and other used equipment sites that you just don't have to pay what you used to have to pay, but you're still paying some big money for it. And so let's say you're paying $20,000 or $30,000 for a tanning bed that looks like a spaceship that landed, and that's what a lot of these tanners want. They want something that's differentiated from everybody else. And you want to differentiate yourself, particularly if you've got a Planet Fitness in your market, or one of the big national chains, Palm Beach or Suntan City. You want to differentiate yourself. So you're buying this nice equipment, and you know that you have to have an excellent location. Now, if you didn't put in good equipment and you had an excellent, if you had a salon location that wasn't excellent, you could pay less per square foot. So both of these costs could be dropped down dramatically, but then no one would want to tan in your equipment. No one would want to come to your location. And of course, if you're putting in shoddy electrical work because you're having your Uncle Herman put it in, and he's a licensed plumber but doesn't know anything about putting wires together, first of all, you might be in trouble with the city, but you know that you can't do that. All of these three that we're talking there, they cost you money, and of course, so is professional salon decor and ambiance. That's always, it's expensive. These are fixed expenses. There's no way to get away from them. And the conclusion is everything that presents your salon as a professional salon or professionalism, it costs money. It just does. Now, if you accept that's true, then why do some folks think they can turn over the selling of a $30,000 piece of tanning equipment to a 19-year-old who feels it's okay to work for minimum wage? And pardon me, while I climb up on my soapbox here for a moment, and I have to do it carefully because at my age my knees are full of arthritis, but I will tell you as I'm standing up here, high up here on my soapbox, Why do you think this makes sense? I don't understand it. And the reason why I'm so impassioned is because when I am consulting with tanning salon companies, a lot of times I'm having to work with 19-year-olds or their bosses that are maybe a year older, and unfortunately they just don't have the background, the maturity, the good judgment to be a good employee. Yes, you can get 19-year-olds that are the exception, but it just doesn't happen that often. Excellent salespeople require excellent compensation plans and other benefits. They really do, and I've got a salon chain I'm working with right now that we're really sweating out, losing some very good people because these are a little older and they want something with health care or some kind of benefits, and and so hey, it's just like anything else. When you say, well, I don't want to pay any kind of a benefits thing, well, you know what? You probably don't want to pay for maintenance on your tanning equipment either, but you got to do it. So this is that soapbox I like to get up on all the time. You just are not going to get people at minimum wage. I mean, you got to ask yourself, why would an employee, why would they accept minimum wage? Where is their self-esteem or their confidence that they would say, I got to work for $7.25 an hour? I don't get it. I don't know why. So let's talk about what I think you should have ready. You're going into this job interview, and where I'm going to go through some questions and some probing questions here in a bit. But here's someone I think you should be ready with in your package, your compensation and benefits package. You need a base wage rate at least $1 above minimum wage. And I'm not just throwing that out as a guess with a dartboard. I hear this kind of stuff back from these workers all the time. Millennials do not want to admit that they're working for minimum wage. So if minimum wage in your town is 8.25 and they're getting 9.25, they don't feel so bad about telling people what they make. Now, we all know that they make more than that when you take their EFT bonuses or lotions and you divide it over their hours, but they're going to look first and foremost at that base rate. And you get somebody that's really good, and I'm going to show you a resume by somebody that's really good. You get somebody that's really good, they're just not even going to consider a minimum wage job. And again, I go back to my logic. If it's somebody that would consider a minimum wage job, do you want that person? I don't think you do. I know I wouldn't. So, okay. But part of the package, too, that you should put together is a merit raise plan. Now, one of my clients is stuck into a bad cycle right now where they're giving a review every 6 months. It's really not a performance review. It's a compensation review, which is not a good corner to be painted into. So every 6 months, they're giving another 25 cents or 50 cents. If you have to give somebody a 25-cent raise, what's the point? I mean, I like to put clients on a merit raise plan. You might have somebody that works there for 2-3 years not getting a raise because merit-wise they don't merit a raise. And you hope that they're curious about that. And if they're not, you should talk to them about it, because that's the opportunity to say the reason that you haven't gotten a merit raise is because of this or that or this or that. So that's a fair thing to do with people, is to tell them why they're not getting a merit raise. But you're going to interview this person, and you want to talk about that you do have a merit raise plan as a potential for at least a 75-cent raise after 4 months of above average performance, and you have to decide what is above average performance. I would suggest that you put in there lotion sales average and probably PSA or overall products plus services average, and also something to do with EFT. This is usually what I set up for my clients. And that they'll be reviewed on that in 120 days, and if they're above those performances that you've outlined, they can go up another 75 cents. And it's well worth the money to you, because if they're working, say, 30 hours a week, 75 cents I think is $24 or something like that a week for somebody that's really doing well on those numbers. And then a potential for another merit raise maybe every 12 months. Now the key is potential and merit. Those are the two most important words. Not just because they're still breathing at the end of those 12 months. Also, they should get all tanning at no charge. Every once in a while, I do run into a client that wants to give away tanning free at the first 3 levels and charge 50% give a 50% discount to their employees on the last 2 levels. To me, I would strongly recommend that you not do that. They should have free tanning for themselves, just period, because they represent what they're trying to sell. If they don't have any color, they're not selling anything. So I would strongly recommend you just let them tan. And maybe it's they don't want a UV tan. If they don't want a UV and they want to go and spray, let them do that. I have been in more meetings with salon employees over the last, particularly seems like the last 3 years, where just about everybody in the room was white like me. And if everyone's white like me, you're not selling anything. I'm damn near albino. So, you know, these people have to have some color. It's part of the job. It's like having those atomizers at the Macy's counter. You've got to have something people can sample. And our salespeople behind the counter at tanning salons, they are the sampler. Okay, possible, and this again, this is your package, possible contribution, the Affordable Care Act, which kind of looks like it might be pretty dead pretty soon here, but I would not offer that to everybody, but I would offer it maybe to management, but it might be a moot point. It might be something that whatever it's replaced with. Now, at this point, he may not throw the entire ACA out. He may modify it. I don't know what he's going to do. But whatever it is for management, if you can contribute, and there, again, we're talking good management, another couple $100 a month, that would help keep them around. That's one of the problems. If you have a person that's really good and a good manager and they sell well too, and they have a child, then they got to start thinking about how to take care of themselves. And we do lose some good people out of the tanning industry because most tanning companies don't have anything to help with health. And sometimes you only need a small piece to help them because their real desire is to stay in the tanning business. Those are the kind of folks that we like. Okay, and lastly, you have to go in with some career pathing. You've got to tell this person that you're interviewing that you have a way that they can go from an entry-level associate up to salon manager, and you can do it even as a single store. And that's because the millennial generation that we work with, they are so much into looking at growth potentials in employment, and you certainly can't blame them. What else should we offer to secure a good candidate? Well, the promise of a comprehensive training program. It's the other thing millennials have said in research. They want to be trained. They want to be well trained. And these kids, these younger folks, are very good at going after training. If they're not going after training, then maybe you hired the wrong person. But they want to know that you've got a comprehensive training program, that you're not going to hire them, just throw them in the deep end of the pool and walk away. Also, a consistent plan. That's great. A consistent plan. Sometimes this computer of mine does some strange things. A consistent plan for meeting with employees individually and collectively to share what works and what needs fixing. So when you've got the candidate that you want, these are some of the things that you want to talk about, is that you consistently meet with your employees and individually to share what works and what needs fixing. In other words, you're telling this millennial, I'm interested in your opinion. I want to hear what you think about what we're doing here. Also, the plan for engagement. Select employees can earn a few dollars more as captains of several key areas of the salon, such as social media, EFT sales techniques. And I'm going to show you, by the way, a lady here in about another 2 slides. I'm going to show you a lady as a testimonial of what you can do when you have some of this stuff for engagement and getting them engaged, getting them passionately involved in your business. Also, oh, that's on there twice, sorry. Okay, now let's go to the lady I was talking about. There she is. She works for a salon company called Sun Goddess out of Toledo, Ohio, and she is really good. She is one of those superstars that I talk about. She really fits the profile that we've mentioned many times. 19 to 45 years old. She is 20, I believe she's 23, 24. Just mature judgment, nice-looking gal, great personality. Now, when she started, she was a sales associate, and when I started working with this chain, and I interviewed her, and I interviewed a lot of other people, and I saw real potential in her, and I thought, you know, she is way underutilized. So she wanted the job, she needed the job, but she showed me a whole bunch of stuff that was really good, that she understood selling and upselling of indulgence services and products, and She had a track record of very responsible employment before Sun Goddess and with Sun Goddess. So eventually, we promoted her up a couple times. She became a manager of one of the salons, and she's also the company spy. And I got to tell you, she was, her engagement in the company was just kind of so-so. I don't know if she was really all that crazy about the job. Maybe it was just a job. But what we did, and this is what I say when you're talking about your new employees, you got to tell them that you have these opportunities available, is we asked her to take on an assignment and be a spy and look at the other salons, look at their social media, report back to us. Well, the first meeting we had, Carrie came back and we had put on the meeting agenda. I think we were giving her maybe 15 minutes to talk, and she talked for almost an hour about everything that she saw. It was a fantastic report, and it told everybody how much better I thought that we were than they were, but it also told some things that we should do that they're doing that we didn't do, and that's why you have to have a spy. So I don't think she tans a lot at Sun Goddess. She probably tans at the competition so she can see what the level of customer service is like, and she watches their pricing and their packages, and she's a wonderful, very nice young lady. Stabilized personal life, it's again what you're kind of looking for. You can vet them on LinkedIn, Facebook. I've vetted Carrie on Facebook, and I watched her and her friends and her family, whatever, and she seemed like a real solid lady. And as I keep looking on Facebook every once in a while, I'll see her on there. You don't see her like every once in a while you'll have somebody that applies for a job and they went to their sister's wedding and they're passed out on the floor. So Facebook is a good thing to use to kind of check up on them. Now, let's talk about when we go shopping for new talent, because we started to talk about this last time, and we want to show you what a good resume looks like. Well, here's some things, and I'm going to switch to that resume, that actual resume in a minute here. I like to look at a resume or an application that's neatly organized with no spelling or grammatical errors, done on a computer, not on a cell phone. I have to tell you, it just drives me wacky when I see something done on a cell phone. Now, if it was beautifully done and well done, maybe it wouldn't drive me wacky. But so many of these applicants, because I get so many of them, they'll send me something that they have cooked up on their cell phone, and it's very incomplete. And it looks like they did it in about 5 minutes. You know, to me, that just says they really don't care about the job. They're just doing something that's quick and easy. In other words, they're lazy. And this job really isn't that important to them. So that's my own personal opinion. If they don't want to take the time to get on a computer to maybe Google what a good resume looks like, oh my goodness, wouldn't that be something? That's what I want to see, some effort. I'm looking for past work experience chronologically laid out with volunteered explanation of gaps. Every once in a while I'll get jobs, they seem like they jump all over the page. I want to see work experience that answers your recruiting interest in ads. I always put in ads that I want so many years of retail experience. If I'm looking for a salon manager, I'll say 2 to 3 years of retail management experience. I'll also say in there that I'm looking for somebody that has experience in the indulgence industries, where it's fitness or it's beauty salons or tanning or massage or whatever, and I'll get resumes or applications that there was a guy that sent me an application about 5-6 weeks ago that was a pipe fitter. Now, you know, of course, I'm sure what he's doing, he's answering his requirement for unemployment compensation that he has to apply for so many jobs, but pipe fitter, right, okay. I'm sure that has a lot to do with tanning or tanning with pipe fitting. An apparent career path. I like to see someone that looks like they're growing in what they're doing. Maybe it's not necessarily in tanning. As the resume I'm going to show you, it shows a lady that was growing more in her management experience, and I like that. And then, of course, names and contact information for work-related references. Don't get excited about people putting, and if I've lectured on college campuses, and I've told them when you're going to do a resume, don't put down your Uncle Max. Don't put down your next door neighbor as a reference. That doesn't do anybody any good. Put down business references, people you've worked for, ex-bosses, phone numbers, contact, email. Of course, you want to make sure it's okay that somebody can contact them, and that that really helps a lot, because if you're vetting this person, you want it easy to to be able to find out what they're like. So I want you to hold on a second here. I'm going to pause the screen just a moment here, and I'm going to bring up. I'm going to try to bring up. Hello. Well, we're having a little issue here. Second here. Yeah. Okay, just a second, guys. We're having a little trouble getting out of. Here we go. Okay, finally. Let me. Honest to gosh, I'm going to show you an interesting resume. Boy, this one was a little bit of a technical issue here. Okay, so I'm going to show you this now. You should see it. Okay, if you don't see it, please send something back to the chat box for me. Let me just check the chat box and see. Okay, does it look like we're having any problems here? All right, so what I've done here is I've hid this person's real name. I mean, I've got her name as Tricia, but I've hidden her last name, her phone number. So let me kind of walk you through this. I liked her summary. Sometimes I don't get real crazy about summaries, because you can pick up summary off the internet and you can write anything if you want. She says she's a highly motivated, energetic, conscientious, customer-oriented professional who's a quick learner with strong interpersonal skills. So later on in the interview, I'm going to get into those strong interpersonal skills to test that myself. I enjoy interacting with customers and work extremely well in a team-based environment. Now, this is all kind of basic boilerplate. A lot of people say that sort of thing. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's look under what she's done. The most recent job she's got, she's working for an escrow company, and I'm not real interested that she works for an escrow company, so I was kind of curious about it, because it says, if you look here, that she's worked there from August of 2016 to present. So that says to me that's only a matter of 3 months or whatever. Notice I say here, if you see my cursor, I put the word question next to it. It's going to cause me to ask her, you've only been there 3 months, and now you're applying with this client of mine. Is there a particular reason why you want to leave there? Well, this was just a temporary job for her, because the one before her, this one right down here, closed in August of 2016. So she needed a job. She went through a temp service and went to work for Title Partners. But she worked there from this place from 1/14 to 8/16. So she worked there 2 years and 7 months, which is good. That's good. It's not 3 months, see? And she was a manager, okay? And it says that she was, now look at here, I highlighted, she's responsible for training. So that leads me to put down in her resume, question. I'm going to question her, which I did when I actually had the interview. I questioned her in this particular case, what is her best way, most effective way of training people? And it's kind of a real broad question. It's not one of those yes-no questions that you say, do you like training people? Well, of course I do. I love training people. No, it's a broad question that says, what's your favorite way or favorite method of training people? And it's so broad, and it gives her an opportunity, if she really is or was responsible for training, she should be able to answer that very fluidly and very completely. She was also payroll, so I might bring that up a little bit. Not that usually managers with salons have necessarily bottom line responsibilities for payroll, but watching the people they hire does contribute to managing payroll. She also down here, and I didn't highlight this, but I did ask it when I got into the interview, she said, I create and run contests to help increase sales. Well, there's a perfect opportunity to say, oh, give me an example of the contest you did to increase sales while you were a manager at Style Encore in Plato's Closet. So, and that's what we want. Now, the rest of this, banking, inventory, maintaining, ordering supplies, I don't really give a rip about. I mean, this is what I care about. Responsible for training, increasing sales. I want to hear what she has to say about that because that's an integral part of her management job. And then down here, she's accomplished her accomplishments. Leader in district for shrink and sales 2015. Now you better believe I'm going to ask her lots of questions about how did you become the leader in sales in 2015. And she said she designed or developed a program for controlling theft. Again, I want to know that. And it's not like tanning salons suffer from a great deal of theft. You know, we're not an electronics or a video gaming store where we have to watch that stuff all the time. But we still have lotions that can walk out the door, and it occasionally happens. So you see, again, I put the word question here. So as you're getting ready for your interview, you're looking at some of this stuff, and you're saying, why are you an escrow closer, and yet you were a manager before? Why did you work just a very short period of time where you worked, and you were a manager? Oh, okay, let's talk about what your responsibilities for training were. Let's talk about the increase of sales. Let's talk about your what you did to become a leader in sales in 2015. How did you control theft? These are all good things to bring up. And, of course, for myself, I'm looking at the fact there's no giant gap here. It says that she worked this job up until they closed, and then she took this job. So that I respect that. Now, I didn't know how old this person was. And if you were on the interview, or excuse me, on the interview webinar last time, you know, I told you that you can't be asking age. That's kind of verboten. But you can tell sometimes when you're looking at the experiences here. I knew just by quickly looking at this resume, I wasn't talking to a 19-year-old, and I do want somebody that's got more rooted in life experiences, and this gal I could see was starting to have it. All right, so before that, she was an assistant manager. Here's more management experience. And she worked on that job. And what's kind of interesting, if you look at the dates here, she worked until March of 2014, and she started in this job January. So it says to me she was working 2 jobs at the same time for 2 or 3 months. So that brings up a question for me. Lady, how did you do that? And that's a fair question to ask. Now, the more I got to talking to her, the more I was impressed with her because she's a very industrious person, really loves work. She volunteered. I didn't ask her. She volunteered that she was not married, didn't have kids, didn't seem like she ever wanted to have kids. I did not further those questions because they're not appropriate for me to ask. But I could see that this is a lady that if you give her the right job, she'll probably work her butt off. So, so from there, 2011 to 2014, she worked roughly 2.5 years there. Again, some overlap, which brought up that next question. And again, she was in management. And she was talked about weekly staff meetings. Now, this is important. Again, talking about training, but she's talking about weekly staff meetings here. And, you know, we, in salon business, we need to have staff meetings with our people and get them pumped up. So, again, I put in for questions there. And look at down here. She talks about running contests to motivate the staff. So you better believe that's what I asked her about there. How do you motivate your staff? What kind of contest do you put together? So when people put things down, I hold it to them, and they come through and answer it well. Then I'm not just guessing that they might be good. I'm asking them how they did things, not necessarily how they would do things. I'm asking them how they did things because that's the best predictor of what they're going to do in the future. And then look at the accomplishment, leader in district for 6 consecutive months in sales. Again, I'm going to ask how she did that. Highest for per customer information for 1 year. I don't know what that means. I didn't know what that means, so I asked her. I put a question mark there, and I brought it to her during the interview, and she answered it very well, so it made me understand what they were doing. And then we go down, and here she was an assistant manager for American Eagle. Now, there's a name brand. I like that because these companies are pretty sophisticated in the way they collect data, and they're pretty sophisticated in the way that they demand their employees, the way that they manage people. Because look at here, she worked from August of 2006 to August of 2011, 5 years. And again, no gaps with what she had up here. See, this is really good stuff. Could she be lying about all of this? I suppose it's possible. But I think you're going to know it after you do this enough. That's the thing about interviewing. if you do interviewing enough, it's like any other management function. You do it often enough, you just get better at it. Your gut gets more educated. Again, she was assistant manager. She ran contests. I want to know how she did that. She encouraged performance. Well, I see, Tricia, that you encouraged performance when you were at American Eagle. How'd you do that? See? So she's got to answer me on that, and she did, as a matter of fact. The skills, the stuff that she's talking about here doesn't mean a whole lot to me because, again, in our business, really the most important skill, one of the most important skills is selling, or it's being able to encourage or involve your employees into selling. And she's talked an awful lot about that up here, about running contests and motivating staff. So that's, if her sales, her individual sales in tanning were just so-so, but her staff was really good, that's fine with me. Now down here I highlighted that she has an associate's degree in business management. I like that. I like to see some post-high school. Now, by the way, I should say I was looking for a management candidate here. And so when I look for a management candidate, I like to see some post-high school. It's not that it's necessary. I work with several general managers out there that don't have post-high school education, and they do a bang-up job. So it's not necessarily, and I've also worked with people that have master's degrees that were idiots. So that's me when I look in the mirror sometimes. And then I brought this up to her also, her charitable work. I said, put a question down there. With everything that she does, I kind of like this, that with some of the stuff that she does, because it says to me that she's involved in the community. She's got roots in the community. I kind of like this. I thought that was kind of cool. Particularly, I'm a big fan. I don't know Goodfellas that much, but I am a big fan of Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And so that was kind of some good stuff there. So that just gives you an idea of some of the stuff you can look for, and it helps set up questions for you when you get into the interview. Now I'm going to, let's see here, let's get you back. Let me just stop showing screen. Okay, I'll be back with you here in just a second. What we'll do is, no, I'm not going to, okay, let's get this out of here. Yes, just give me a second, guys. I'm shuffling back and forth here. Okay, now I got to get you back to seeing. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen right now, and I want to go back to some of the stuff that we talked about last time a little bit. I can just, okay. All right, so again, to remind you, what will help you to see the real person when you get in the interview? You're setting up that relaxed interviewing environment. I put it back on for today's webinar again because since the last webinar I talked to a couple of retailers that are, they like to put people on the spot. They like to test them, and you're just not going to see the real person. Again, I told you that I would make sure that you've got some commonality working with you. You're interviewing in private, and again, you're using open-ended questions and want to be prepared to use additional probing questions. And I'm going to show you that in just a second here. I'm going to bring up, if you'll just stick with me here, let's stop showing that screen and bring over, here we are, and let's show you the screen. Okay, so let me give you a couple examples of probing. All right, probing interview questions for management, supervisor, and senior clerk candidates. Now, what's on here, by the way, this list has got, oh goodness, yeah, lots, 40 different questions that I'll use. I don't use them all, but I use a lot of them. And if you're interested in the questions and you send me an email, I'll send them all back to you. Okay, so here's the first one. Please give me a quick summary of your personal and work experiences background. And these are what we call foundation questions. You're building a foundation of this person, who and what they are. you're trying to determine some commonalities of their background and yours. Maybe they went to a high school that you went to or whatever. Tell me about your duties of the last job, and does what they're saying have a parallel with your tanning salon open position? If it sounds like they were pounding nails, chances are it doesn't work. How many hours were you required to work at your last job? How many hours did you usually put in? These, again, where it says foundation or it says F as you go through the questions, these are just foundation questions. It's basic stuff you want to start off with to know something about the person. What did you like best about your last job? Here is one. It says, it was nice working independently, not having a supervisor stand over my shoulders all the time. So I had to probe this one because I said, well, does that mean that you don't like to be redirected or you don't want someone to tell you what to do? And the more that I got into it, that was what I was hearing. So that's something you have to be careful of because tanning is not a super easy job like some people like to make you think it is. I mean, there's a lot to learn about the lotions, the equipment, the pricing offers, the pricing options as far as signing up to memberships. There's a lot there. Tell me why you decided to leave your last or current job. And this person said not enough hours and too low of a wage rate. Okay, so what would you ask then? Well, I asked, obviously, well, how many hours were you getting and how many hours are you looking for? And what was your wage rate? And then I also probed to see if they were getting paid anything like on any kind of bonuses or commissions or that kind of thing. Number 7, what suggestions for improvements did you make at your last job? And this one gal told me she worked for a hotel, and she said, I helped design a new parking system for employees. Apparently there weren't a lot of parking spaces for employees, and they had to park a long ways away from the hotel. In the middle of the winter, they didn't like walking, so she designed this new parking system. And she didn't, by the way, and this is important, some of these questions people have never heard before. And that's cool. If they hesitate, like you ask this question, what suggestions for improvements did you make at your last job? Well, chances are most of the applicants have never been asked that before. And if they hesitate, you say, hey, it's okay, just put it in the back of your mind, we'll come back to it, and you can think about it. And that's okay, because it puts them at ease. If you give them a question they can't answer, and there is this pregnant pause that lasts somewhere between 5 minutes and a half an hour waiting for their answer, you're going to have a candidate they can't wait to get out of there. So these next two I like a lot. Tell me about the best boss you ever worked for, the worst boss you ever worked for. Again, it's foundation questions and relationship with authority. Because you may hear some things that are perfect for you and that best boss. You might hear some things that aren't so perfect. You may hear some things about worst boss that they may be describing you. So and this is one, I don't know that most people, I'm not sure that I like this question anymore. What would you say is your greatest strength as an employee? Because this question does get asked, and I think people have got pat answers for it. So it's up to you if you use it, or what areas would you like to improve. I'm not sure I'm real crazy about that. This one I do like. What have you done in your personal life or in your work life that you're most proud of? Because it speaks of self-esteem, of health, self-esteem, health, and personal values. But anyway, you can see these questions. And then when you get down to this list, if you're looking to hire somebody for a manager, you're going to see that right down here, we start on the more of the management questions, conflict resolution. Can you share with me a time when you had two employees that did not get along? Oh boy, have we had that in the tanning business sometime. Well, she said that to me, and I said that to me. We hear that kind of crap going on. So, but if we fired every employee that didn't get along with their fellow employees, we'd have a lot of people being fired. Because these are, again, a lot of them are young employees and they don't know how to relationship build. So I like to ask people, you had something like that, how did you resolve that? And I think it's a good question. Okay, now this one here, this is a typical one for tanning. Have you ever had an issue with an employee that involved the way they showed up for work, dressed, or was there a general issue of hygiene? Now, lately, we've been adding to that, we've been adding the question about what we call not only dress code, but appearance code. We've separated them now. Dress code, of course, wearing the company tanning shirt and maybe whatever the bottoms are that are acceptable. But appearance code is all of these uh, tattoos and body piercings that are all over the face that, you know, that are just very distracting to a lot of people, but they do pick up a good FM signal. Anyway, we do have appearance code, and so this is a good question if you're asking a management candidate. Have you ever had that issue with an employee, and you know, what did you do? I had an issue with an employee years ago, an issue of personal hygiene. I have to tell you, that was a tough one. This gentleman, well, smell, oh boy, he would knock a buzzard off a garbage scow. He was really, really terrible. So, and the one thing that my boss advised me about at the time, he said there's really no beautiful way to tell somebody they stink. He said, but the worst thing you can do is let it go on, because then people are talking about him or her behind their back. It gets worse and worse and worse, and eventually, if that person knows that this has been a problem that you indicated or that was indicated a long time ago and you didn't say anything, they're going to stop thinking about their hygiene problem, and they're going to think about their resentment toward you. So obviously this is a private conversation that you have, and I mean, it's, I don't want to go into it right now because it was a coaching situation I had to do, and it would take me about 5 minutes because it is a very personal thing. You can't just sit down with someone in private and say, you know, Ron, I got to tell you something. You stink. So put on some deodorant, and you got to do it a little bit more tactful than that. How about this? What was your greatest achievement in developing a subordinate? I got asked this when I was recruited to go run the entertainment division at a little company called Target Stores. And I got asked that, and I nailed it because I had had the good fortune of developing a lot of subordinates, and it was a gentleman who was a terrible performer when I took over the division I took over, and within a year we were getting him promoted, and he was just doing a great job. So, but these are the kind of things that you want to ask, and again, you get toward the bottom of this list. A lot of this is all about, here, tell me about an employee that was dishonest. What were the circumstances? How did you correct the problem? Well, I shot him. You know, that's one way. But see, there's a lot of stuff down here. 32. How do you motivate employees? And that covers attitude towards subordinates, initiative, interpersonal, intellectual. Intellectual gives you an idea about how this candidate thinks. Do they think with a one option in mind that it's my way or the highway, or do they think that motivating employees is the KITA method, K-I-T-A, or kick in the butt? It's collaborative. How well do they collaborate with employees? So there you go. And again, if you send me your email, I will send you back those questions. Now let me get out of this screen. We'll stop sharing this, and we'll get back to the other stuff. Okay. Parent screen. Okay. And okay, you can now see my screen. Okay. So again, what we'll see the real person. We talked about that. Okay, let's get past that slide. Wouldn't it be nice if John knew how to use this thing? Again, last comment there, probing questions. Guys, if you go in with a list of questions and that's all you ask, you're missing probably 80% of the value of that interview, because it's those probing questions that get more from the starters that make sense. Now, let's get you to hire like a pro, and I think that's, you've made a decision, you've gone through the questions, you've got somebody that you're really interested in, you want to hire them. So here's kind of how you hire like a pro. Call the successful candidate first to make the offer. Specify the day and time they start, their starting wage rate, the position being offered, and a brief overview of their first week or two in training and orientations. Now, why is that important? There are things in life that are naturally intimidating to all of us. Maybe it's the first time that you meet your mother-in-law or your father-in-law or your next mother-in-law, I don't know. But one of the things is when you start a new job. That's very intimidating, and you want to do well. You want to impress your boss, your new boss. You want them to think they made the right decision, and it's a little scary. But if the new boss calls you and says, hey, great, we're going to be glad to have you on, and you're going to start next Monday and be there at 9, I'll meet you there at 9. Just want to remind you, here's what your wage rate is to start with, and you know that There are some commissions and bonuses, and we'll look at those even more when we get together during your orientation and training period. This position is sales. We do these sales titles, Sales Associate 2, whatever. And the brief overview is this first week or two, you're going to be doing training and orientation with me and maybe one or two other people at different times. And you're also going to be working on your certification, and we'll tell you more about that. Now this person is a little bit at ease because we tend to fear the unknown. So why have an unknown? And then you follow up that phone offer with a written offering letter that details your phone conversation. I have to tell you that I don't think there are 5% of the salons in this industry that use an offer letter via email to the new employee. But it's very impressive. It looks very professional. You're saying what the position is, basically what the hours are, what the wages are. You're welcoming them to your tanning salon company. You're congratulating them on their decision. Notice I say congratulating them on their decision. When you're out to hire somebody and make them feel good about the job, make sure they know that you know that it's much their decision as it is yours. And when you offer the job and they accept it, you congratulate them on their decision to come to work for you. And that makes an impression. You want to plan resources for training, including a trainer and a training checklist. If you don't have a training checklist, next month we're launching three different modules in the vault. It's basically the salon HR department, if you will, three different modules, one in December, one in January, one in February. And we're going to have that training checklist, and it's a very comprehensive training checklist, and it forces people to be organized about how they're training their new employees, and I think you're going to find it very impressive. But you also, when I ask your current employees, and this is a blowout, by the way. You ask your current employees, you say, look, I'm hiring this gal. Megan is coming to work for us starting next Monday. Here's Megan's email address. Send her, please, if you like. You're not forcing your employees to do it, but if you'd like, send her a welcome to XYZ Tanning from you as a fellow employee. Now this Megan, who is concerned about her new job, oh boy, what's it going to be like? What's my boss going to be like? What are the employees going to be like? Are the employees going to be bitches? Are they going to be nice? Do we really work together? And suddenly she gets 3 or 4 emails from current employees saying, welcome to XYZ Tanning. Wow, that's a great way to start a job. It works beautifully. On day one, have ready the new employee packet, which includes your I-9 form. It includes the handbook for them to sign, for them to read the handbook, sign the acknowledgments page, so you've got that in their folder. It's for their payroll, all those forms you want for completed. Get it done right away because, of course, you don't want any delay in them getting paid. So, again, the object is to look like a pro. Also, review your training checklist for an overview of what will be trained and when. You're reviewing this with the new person. It's saying, here's what we're going to be going through. It looks like a lot. It is, but it goes fairly quickly, and we're not going to force you to learn it all in 5 minutes. Because just remember, National Education Association, Society of Human Resource Management, there's a whole bunch of people out there that will tell you that research says you do your training in small increments. Because it's not like if you, when you went to school and you try to cram for a test the next day, you may have done well on the test, but did you really retain what you were cramming? And we want people to retain it. So you review the training checklist with the new person, what will be trained and when, and you might include also who they're going to be training with. Discuss your expectations of their completion, including certifications, meaning that, okay, so we anticipate our training will be in the first 30 to 45 days. You should be done, and then we hand over to you your first responsibility of a PSA. And you want to keep it low to start with, So, but you're reviewing this training checklist with them so they know kind of the blueprint of where it's going. I love to assign a training buddy. I mean, if if I'm the manager and I'm training a new employee, that's great. But I also am going to ask another employee to kind of take a personal interest in this person's progress. Sometimes, and that other employee, by the way, will be somebody that's particularly good at, say, selling lotions or EFTs, whatever. I'm going to have them work with me and have them work on occasion with the training buddy. Now, the reason for that is people learn much better from a peer than they do from a boss. As much as nice of a boss as I know that I am to my employees, I'm still a boss, and you're still a boss if you're an owner or a manager, whatever. It's nice when a new employee can work with somebody that they would think is pretty non-threatening. So if they screw up, if they make a mistake, or they want to ask dumb questions, they can ask all the dumb questions they want. And that's why you have a training buddy assigned. And this is what makes training really effective. You set up days for status updates to follow their progress. And so it's maybe once a week. You're sitting down with them maybe on a Friday when they're in for their shift. You're going over maybe a little bit of the checklist and asking them, so what makes sense to you? What doesn't make sense to you? How can I help you? That's what you want to do. You want it to look like you're there to help them. Because if you don't do that and you walk away, they're going to flail in that deep end of the pool. And this is where salons lose people. It amazes me the number of people that come and go from a tanning salon in a 30 to 60 day period. It's crazy. A lot of it is because the training is ineffective and the employee doesn't feel like they're accomplishing anything. And nobody likes to really stay at a job where you're not really feeling like you're accomplishing anything. Unless you think accomplishing something is just being on Facebook in between tanners and maybe doing your homework. We don't want those people either. And then correct any minor or major issues standing in the way of their success. Meaning, if they've been late twice in the first 2 weeks, obviously you've got to approach that and tell them that's not acceptable, and then get it back into the positive stuff. And of course, shift share with them. You're sharing a shift with them, either with them or with a buddy. And every once in a while, I like to throw somebody a softball where you're at the counter. There is a client in there that really wants to buy a lotion, and the only way that they would not buy a lotion is if you told them that their dog was ugly and they walked away. They're going to buy a lotion. You know that. It's a softball. So maybe you hand that sale to the new person, so the new person has a feeling of some success. It doesn't hurt to do that. If you're the trainer and you keep all of the sales to yourself, then you might be getting commission out of that. That's great, but you're not helping this new person get ready. So that's about pretty much what I want to cover, and I would like to take some questions right now. Let me get this open. You guys will be shocked if I get out of this in a short period of time, because I usually don't. Okay, question from Michelle. And Michelle, you've been on before. I always love your questions. Not sure if you have heard or not, but Washington State minimum wage will be going from $9.47 per hour to $13.50 per hour for the next 3 years. Michelle, I have, because I do have a client that has stores in Burlington and, oh gosh, goofy name of that town, Sedro-Woolley. Now, who would come up with a name called Sedro-Woolley? He's probably a general in the Civil War, Sedro-Woolley. I don't know, but anyway, I'm not making fun of it. Just it was an unusual name. Anyway, so I have a client with stores down there, and yes, they've kept me up to speed on the monies that are coming up. And Michelle, you probably know your part of the country is extremely unique from most other parts of the country, because there are a lot of, like Missouri, I believe, is still 7.25, which is just amazing. Let's see, Michigan just went to $8.90, I think. So, yeah, it's expensive, Michelle, and that's why I think on your part, Michelle, what you've got to do. Oh, thank you. Michelle is saying, John, you dummy, it's Sedro-Woolley. Yes, you're right. You're right. I shouldn't have to be corrected for that. They've been a client of mine for over a year. You'd think I'd know that. But but Michelle, it puts it more on you than ever before when you're paying that kind of money to be effective at interviewing and looking for some of these things that you want with people, because you're putting out more money. Okay, here's Lindsay has left the room. Well, so did Elvis. But she says, please email me. These questions are really great. No problem, Lindsay. Only $99.95 every month. No, we'll send them to you. And then Lindsay, again, Lindsay has left the room. Lindsay must have came and went back. And okay. Now, Chris wants to know, best place to advertise for a manager, online service, Craigslist. Chris, thank you for that question. That's a very good question. As a matter of fact, I'm feeling like an idiot because I wanted to cover recruiting, and I didn't know if I've had enough time today to do it. But let's start with associates first, Chris. Best place for you to go after associates, and to some degree even managers, but is in your own database of your own customers, because it answers two questions right away. Do they like your tanning salon, or salons plural? And that should answer that question because they tan with you. And do they like to tan? And that's kind of self-serving there. So it answers those two questions. If you have, let's say that you have 1,000 people on your email list, somewhere out there is somebody that's looking for, if you want a part-time worker, somebody that's looking for a 20 or 25 hour a week job that's not 19 years old necessarily. Maybe they're 23 or 24, or a very old woman at 26. But somebody that's got more maturity, that wants the job, needs the job, is past that crazy stuff of being 18. I know what I did when I was 18. Well, this is a family-friendly webinar, so I'm not going to repeat it. But we all know what we did when we were 18, all right? It's called hormones. But you want somebody that's got a little bit more maturity to them, and so you can go through your own email database. Now, for managers, Chris, what I like is Craigslist has worked well for me. You don't always get the perfect person right away. It's the old analogy I use is you're throwing a net out there in the sea of labor, and there's a lot of carp swimming around out there, and you're looking for those few rainbow trout. But that resume I showed you earlier today, this lady is very good, and I found her on Craigslist, and I found a lot of people on Craigslist. Are there a lot of people that apply on Craigslist that shouldn't be managing a lemonade stand? Yes. You just have to be good at looking through those details, and also the pre-screening, which we talked about on the prior webinar. Okay, thank you again, Michelle, for the Cedro Woolly. So now I'm curious, Michelle, you can answer back in the chat line. Do you live anywhere near Burlington or Cedro Woolly? Because just curious. Okay, Kylie from Havre de Grace, Maryland. Oh, okay. Could you please email me the questions as well? Thank you. Awesome job. And that was either from Kylie or from Tammy. I'm not sure who it was, but it looks like they'll both get them when I send them. Okay. Okay. Michelle says, I'm a couple hours south of them. I am close to Tacoma. Okay, I know where you're at. Yeah. Nice territory, pretty territory out there. A little rainier than what we're used to back here. But we've had incredible weather. We're just waiting for the white stuff to dump. And there was one other question I had that I had written down. And where was it? Somebody was wanting to know what is a good incentive plan for managers. You're right, Michelle. Beautiful colors out there. Oh, you guys have a great fall. Anyway, a good compensation plan for a manager, and if that's maybe what you're wondering about too, Chris, is that I like to put people on something that earns them some good money on incremental revenues. So if the salon goes up, they get a piece of the pie, not a piece necessarily of the profits, but so if the salon goes up over a quarter, it goes up $5,000 over the prior year. Give them 10% of the incremental. That'd be $500. If you can get someone to have good bonuses, that means the sales have gone up, but it also means you're probably going to keep that person. Now, again, a lot of it depends on where your salon is at. Working with a chain right now that over the last 5 years has lost about 32% of their business. And what we put in place right now, I believe they're going to have an enormous first quarter and second quarter. I mean, everybody that we've worked with here in the third and fourth quarter of this year, we've set them up in terms of EFT rewards and motivations, and employee rankings and stuff like that, I think we're going to have a fabulous first and second quarter. I think the business is going to do well anyway, but with these clients, I think we're going to do fantastic, and I'm going to report back to that as we're going. We have a client that was up through the end of June, in the peak season, had a 7.9% increase. Yours truly has been working with them the last 4 months, and we're up the last 4 months over 15%. And these last 4 months, as you know, are not the peak season. So if the slapping you're going to hear is me patting myself on the back. But it wasn't all me. It was working with a very good general manager there by the name of Lindsay. Okay, so Deborah, questions. Oh, she wants the questions. Okay, Deborah, we'll do that. And Mark says, would you please email me the 40 questions concerning the probing questions for the interview sent to Malibu Tan, Mark? Yes, Mark, I will do that. And it's good to have you on. And by the way, your part of the country is going to be looking for snow here pretty soon too, because I believe you're up in Montana. Aren't you going to have fun here pretty quick? Anyway, I want to thank you all. Now, what comes up here, let me just switch slides here for a second. Be nice if I knew how to use this equipment here. But, okay. So, I don't want you to miss out on everything. As I mentioned before, Sunbiz Weekly, we're well over 10,000 unique visitors now to the digital magazine. We are the only digital magazine. You don't have to wait 30 days to get your snail mail copy of the other trade magazines. The gentleman that controls all of our editorial content was the gentleman that controlled most of the editorial content at IST Magazine, John Ribner. He's, as my Jewish friends would say, he's a mensch. He is very, very good at what he does, and he controls our editorial content. He's just done a fantastic job. We have a great graphic artist lady, Carrie Larange, and Jesse Sanchez is our internet website guru. So we've got a good team, and I would strongly recommend you go to sunbizweekly.com. Yeah, that is if you want to get the news of the business and you don't want to wait 30 days. The Far Factor Vault, I just got reminded of this, guys. And the Far Factor Vault is a subscriber vault. It's $39 a month, but I got to tell you, we did a study on this. There's more than 25,000 pages of content of how to run your salon and how to manage your people and how to market. There's more than 50 webinars in there. There's radio ads. There's graphic ads in there for your email. I mean, I forget how much is in there, but there is so much content in there, it's ridiculous. And what's the price of it? It's the price of a bed cleaner, I guess, in a month. If you're paying even $8, it's 5 hours of a bed cleaner. But we have lots of members to the vault. We'd love to add more. So please take a look at johnrfar.com, johnrfar.com, and get some information on the vault. It's the people that have been on it love it. And the vault and Sunbiz Weekly, information you need and want to stay in business profitably. Now, last thing we're going to have, we had our Q&A. I'm a little bit out of order here, but I want to thank you for joining us today. And you can contact us. You can see the emails there. But we're going to have as we dial off here, we'd like you to answer a survey about the webinar and tell us if it was useful or if you thought it was just a bunch of hot air, whatever you think. But please give us your true feelings, and thank you again, and we'll be back again with another webinar probably in the first week of December, which will be the last one before the peak season, and we'll get back to you with plenty of information on that. So thank you very much, and I hope that you got some good stuff out of this, and we'll see you next time, and I hope that you're having a good third or fourth quarter. We'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.